I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
Remember what you just heard, because this is happening across America. Trump says something insane and dangerous that under normal circumstances, the conversation would progress like this. That guy's nuts. No one would vote for him. But then, oh, people did vote for him. And now those people say he never said it, or he said it and didn't mean it, or he said it and I'm glad he said it. It's confusing and frightening.
Sorry, I gotta take a moment here. You're saying that in California you can kill a newborn baby up to 4 weeks until after it's born?
Absolutely.
That's not true.
That is true.
That's not
They
true.
passed the law in the last year or two.
That is not true. That's not true.
You need to go do your research.
And look, I'm not talking about Trump's Cracker Barrel base. I'm talking about twits like the governor of Virginia.
Had senior people from our national security apparatus say that there's 15,000 violent felons in the United States. They have no idea where they are. That is what I believe the president is referring to. I don't think that he's referring to elected people in America. But
I'm literally reading his quotes. I'm literally reading his quotes to you, and I played them earlier so you could hear that they were not made up by me. He's literally talking about, quote, radical left lunatics, and then one of those lunatics he mentioned was Congressman Adam Schiff. Criminals should be locked up. Migrants who are in this country illegally, who are violent, should be locked up and deported. I grant you all of that, and I am not denying that it's happening at all.
So, Jake,
but I'm talking about Donald Trump saying that he wants to use the National Guard and the military to go after the left. That's what he's saying.
The bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
I don't believe that's what he's saying. But listen, you and I are going to argue about that. But I would suggest if you would also.
I played the quote and I read it to you.
If you would also balance
you can wish that he weren't saying that, but that's what he's saying.
Jake, all the time, people are taking little snippets of content and turning it into a big narrative. I think exactly what he's concerned about, because I've heard him express it before, are the number of national security risks, violent criminals, and folks who are coming into this country where we don't know where they are, that are committing crimes and put people's safety at risk. And I do think that on the same balance, I think you should cover the fact that over the course of the last 3.5 years, there has been an unprecedented and unrestrained flow across our border, and it has put Americans' lives and so much of our livelihood at jeopardy. And I think that's a very important, clear reality that we have to face. You know, one of the things that's happened in Virginia is that on Friday, the Justice Department sued Virginia for simply doing a very basic constitutionally.
Let me ask you about that.
Constitutionally authorized step, which is to make sure that non-citizens aren't on our voter roll.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that, because I want to bring, because people might not be aware of it, so I want to give it. But before I do that, I just want to note, I was just reading you his quotes, and he was not talking about dangerous migrants in those quotes. Later, there were other quotes about those migrants, and he was saying that people shouldn't even, children shouldn't even be sending their kids to school with the kids of migrants. But you don't want to accept those quotes.
As you heard at the beginning, Trump has said this clearly and without any ambiguity. He will use military and law enforcement against his political enemies, and MAGA is okay with that.
He's talking about the enemy within Pennsylvania, that he considers anyone who doesn't support him or who will not bend to his will an enemy of our country. He is saying that he would use the military to go after them. We know who he would target, and we know who he would target because he has attacked them before. Journalists whose stories he doesn't like. Election officials who refuse to cheat by filling extra votes and finding extra votes for him.
I just want to find 11,000 votes.
Judges who insist on following the law instead of bending to his will. Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged.
And none of this is new. Donnie Diapers has been threatening Republicans, Democrats, immigrants, the media, even our allies, and it resonates with his junior high militia. And the MAGA talking points are about as substantive as an Eric and Don Jr. TED Talk.
Just insanity after insanity. They'll come up with a way to word it and say, well, this isn't exactly what we're doing. Human would also have man in it. We could just move to a blue state, basically going to do nothing, unlike all the prior presidents. A small nuclear war.
Everything Youngkin said is a lie. The tens of thousands of immigrant murders, the crisis at the border being Harris's fault. For the record, Obama deported more people than Trump. But not one mention of Trump killing the bill that would have secured the border.
Why were you against the House, against the Senate border deal?
It made it much better for the opposing side.
The border bill that would have hired more guards, ended catch and release, held asylum seekers until their cases were adjudicated, and closed the border when encounters reached 5,000 in a week. Trump and Mike Johnson killed that bill and instead went with this.
One of his plans is, he talked to Time Magazine, is to round up the 11 to 15 million illegals. Would you support that?
Absolutely, and President Trump and I have talked about this at length.
So let me get this straight. Trump's plan is to build a wall that won't work again, that will cost billions, and deport 11 million people in the process, many U.S. citizens. Aside from the civil rights implications, this will cost the U.S. trillions in revenue, as Trump will be decimating American manufacturing and agricultural businesses' labor pool. And with the unemployment low, Americans won't work picking strawberries and lettuce in California or plucking dead chickens in Mississippi. It will be a colossal foobar.
By the way, what happens what does happen when you put tariffs on goods and you stop immigration and force migrants to leave in terms of wages?
Unless you're Hamilton, I'm kind of against it.
Isn't that going to be inflationary?
Of course.
Here's the thing. Trump is announcing his insanity with a bullhorn, and people like Youngkin and the rest of the MAGA cast are all pretending it didn't happen while they stand on Trump's shoulders and then pretend they're tall or crazy. Either way, the very roots of our democracy are being attacked by this obese, pustulant skin tag who is afraid of everyone and everything that stands up to him. And he's especially afraid of her.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
Now, there is another way of looking at Trump, and that is as a puppet for people like Youngkin and Johnny Donuts here.
A bunch of childless cat ladies.
They are waiting literally for him to stroke out while taking a dump so they can move their agenda forward. I mean, why won't Trump reveal his medical records? I mean, isn't he the healthiest president in history?
He's not being transparent. So check this out. He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it.
What else do voters need to know about Trump? Well, he's mentally unwell.
I love Donald Trump. The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. I've got to be the cleanest sheriff. I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created. But what happened, with Afghanistan, I do the weave. You know what the weave is? I'll talk about 9 different things, and they all come back brilliantly together. And it's and friends of mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. But the fake news, you know what they say? He rambled. The transgender thing is incredible. Think of it. Your kid goes to school and comes home a few days later with an operation. The school decides what's going to happen with your child. And she wrote the most beautiful story you've ever seen. It was a love story about Melania and myself. A love story in People magazine.
What else do voters need to know about Trump?
Very fine people on both sides.
Jews will not replace us!
He's a racist?
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. Discriminating against and just denigrating white people.
He's a traitor and a liar.
Russia, if you're listening, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. Putin's a killer. That's why you think our country's so innocent?
And he's a horrible husband, father, citizen, and human being. I mean, he stole from a charity for childhood cancer. But here's my greatest worry. Trump has a long list of weak, little white men who have his back and who are willing to go all the way. You know who they are. Look, there is no truth about Trump greater than the words coming out of his mouth.
In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough.
And when they protested once, they would not do it again so easily.
This is not a normal election.
These are not normal times.
They're eating the dogs.
Because Trump is far from normal.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Goddamn right.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Trust me. Shut the fuck up, Darren.
Who's with me? Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.